Can you talk about each of the seniors and what you're going to remember most about them?
Uh, well, I think with Tariq, I think I'll remember him being an unbelievable teammate and a great leader, and certainly a guy that has impacted our ability to win, obviously. But he's got something about him that I think every kid yearns for, and he's ultra positive. His attitude's very, very good. He's got energy, and he's always trying to make others better. So I'll remember that, and of course Nico. I've known Nico the longest, obviously, and I think I even spanked Nico when he was about 3 or 4 years old. A couple of times when we used to babysit him, but he's awesome, and he's part of our family, and has been for a long time, and certainly real proud of him, what he's done since he's been here. Not just how much he's helped us from a scout team and stuff like that standpoint, but he's really been a great ambassador, and certainly a great teammate as well. And Justin, I think Justin's maybe the coolest kid on our team. He's you go from being your first big off the bench, you know, 3 years ago as a sophomore, and playing in the national championship game, and then hadn't played much at all since then, and his attitude's the same as it was back then, and he's going to get his degree, and then of course certainly we've helped spearhead what could be a very, very wonderful acting career as well. I think that all three have played a role in how good we've been, and all three have played a role, to be honest, in my personal happiness, because I've enjoyed being around all of them.
So is this the first time you ever had one of your former players actually be able to pay the tuition for one of your current players with Keith and Justin? Is that kind of cool that Keith did that for him for a couple of years?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Justin's been on scholarship a couple of years, and Keith paid a couple of years. When Justin came, the deal is that we don't have a scholarship, but if you work hard, you do what you're supposed to do. Hopefully, we'll be able to put you on aid before you get out of here, and we were able to do that a couple of years. And this last year, he knew time and score without question. I mean, he knew that wasn't going to be a possibility if we signed our guys, and Mom knew that. Everybody was up front, and Keith knew that. And I think I'm real appreciative of what Keith has done, the sacrifices he's made to do that for Justin. I know Justin is as well. It's pretty cool.
Will you meet with Tarek and about his new role, at least for the next week?
No, I don't. You guys, that's something that we won't make a big deal of at all. That's kind of not how we do things. We'll talk about, well, we don't have Joe, but that is not the emphasis of what we don't have. Our emphasis is what we do have, and we got to, we're one of the very fortunate teams in the country that can lose a good player and have basically a 3-year major college starter step in and do that. So I'm not going to see that as we're not going to change. We may run a couple of different sets to try to do a different thing or two, but we're not going to change. And certainly, that's what we've always talked about is, when your number's called, be ready, and you don't talk about what you don't have, you talk about what you do have, and certainly we still have a lot.
How do you approach senior day with a guy who might not be back next year, who's not necessarily a senior? Is it awkward almost?
No. I've seen where other schools, when guys are projected to leave, they make them part of their night, which I think is fine. I mean, every school should do it the way that they do it, but we've been a pretty tradition-rich program for a long time, and there's certain traditions that I think are worth keeping. And this is not freshman night. It's not sophomore night. It's not junior night. It's senior night. And I think in the past we've acknowledged, maybe said something, but the bottom line is this night is about Justin, Nico, and Tariq, and so. Other people may do it differently, but that's not how we're going to do it. I think our fan base, the majority, would be very disappointed if we did something that took away from what is one of the great traditions of our basketball season, and that is senior night. And Now, I'm not saying I may not recognize or do something, but certainly I don't want the emphasis to ever get away from those kids that have actually exhausted their eligibility here. And in this case, all three graduated, obviously.
Though you guys rank so high in the RPI, I just wondered, when you do your non-conference scheduling, especially the home games, do you kind of put an eye towards that? Some of those teams that might be top 100 teams.
Oh yeah. We put too keen an eye on it this year probably, but absolutely that, and Larry Keating does a great job with our scheduling. Of course, he runs everything by me. Hey, you want to play them, and this is where their RPI is, how many starters back, and this kind of stuff. So yeah, we try to put together a schedule that would be a strong RPI schedule. And I could be mistaken. I think this year there's one team that we played that wasn't in the top 200, and I think there's of the 29 games we played so far, 20 have been in the top 100 or something like that, some ridiculous number. So he deserves some credit for us having a good RPI schedule. And Larry, you walked in at the perfect time, okay? But also, a lot of it's also kind of luck the way it plays out. But I think our league is plenty good enough that would get us enough RPI points, so to speak, that we'd have a good strength of schedule. But this year was certainly one, and the only reason we're considered to be a number one seed was 7 losses. And I'm not sure that we are on the outside or inside or anything like that. We still got a lot to prove, and we got to finish strong to even be seriously considered. But the only reason we are is because we played a monster schedule. So, that's the reason, and so that is a very positive thing.
What are your thoughts on Tech?
Well, they play everybody close, and they've had some tough losses, and going back to our game, that was a tough loss, and there's a one-possession game in Ames right before we played them, which was a tough loss, and but certainly, Tubby's done a great job, and their front line is probably about as good as one of the better front lines in our league without question. Crockett's a hard matchup, and they guard, and they, if you remember right, they milk the clock. They'll try to score quick if they can, but if not, they'll shoot it under 7 on the shot clock, many possessions, and we did a poor job of finishing the possession, so we got to be much better at that. Great offensive rebounding team.
You mentioned other years having to kind of play catch up for the league crown, or play. Is it any different now that you've wrapped it up with 2 to go and kind of dangling still another kind of carrot for this team?
I would say it's a little bit different because our goal that we have, throughout conference play is complete. We did win the league. We never made a goal, hey, we want to win the league by 3 games or anything like that. We just wanted to win the league, and so we have completed that. Now we now, just to be really very realistic, now what we're playing for is basically potential seeding and having momentum, playing our best ball now. But the guys should be enjoying playing. I mean, there's no question about that, and obviously they've played with passion and energy for the most part in the entire conference season. And I don't see that changing. I don't see why you have to be geeked up because of a conference race to have enthusiasm to go play. There's a lot of teams out there that don't have a chance to win a league race that play their butts off. And certainly I hope that we're one of those teams that play just as hard moving forward as we ever did looking back.
Hey Bill, what do you think you need to do to get that number 1 seed? Do you have to win out from
I don't know. I don't know. I was asked that today on ESPN, and if you look at us and you see 22-7, that didn't do much for me. I don't know what you've lost 7 times, and then you look at the strength of schedule, and you say, well, there's a lot of people that would have lost 7 times, and then you say, well, how'd you do in your league? And if you win your league by, if you're up 3 games with 2 to play, in the maybe the best league in America, and is what other people are saying is the best league in America, then you say you must be pretty good if if you got the best league in America and you're up 3 games with 2 to play. So I don't know what we'd have to do, because I think our total body of work would be good enough if you really evaluate it and study it. I think the initial record look isn't good enough. But to me, it's irrelevant unless you play well from this point forward. If we don't play well from this point forward, we don't deserve to be in that conversation. And I think there's 3 teams that are locks to be number 1. I think Wichita State obviously is a lock. I think Arizona's a lock, and I think Florida is a lock. So you got 7, 8, 10 schools probably fighting for that other number 1 seed, and you may say there's not that many. No, there is that many. If you went out and go win your league tournament, there's that many. So and there may be more than that. So we're one of those teams, I think, but how we finish it will determine whether or not we got a shot.
Speaking of seed, I heard I don't know if it was an analyst or suggest that with Joel not playing these last couple of games, that the committee would actually factor that in. They've done that before for
To
other
help us
injuries.
or hurt us?
To help you, that they wouldn't look at these next couple of games.
Man.
Like, they've done that for injuries, but do you think they actually would in this case with just something where he's just out for a few games?
I don't have any idea. They talked a lot about the suspension at Oklahoma State, how the committee would view that. So I don't see how a committee would view an injury if it's not if it's temporary, how they'd view it much differently than something like that if they take that in consideration, which I'll be honest, I don't know how much they take any of that stuff into consideration. I know they say they talk about it, but I don't know. So if that's the case, then Florida should be overwhelmingly the number 1 overall seed, because they should be undefeated just about, because they played the games they lost is when they didn't have their full complement of players. I think Scotty Wilbekin and maybe somebody else was hurt. So they could easily be undefeated if the committee takes that stuff into account. But I don't know how much they do take that stuff into account. But we're not approaching it like that. We've got good enough guys to step in and do the job when he's out.
Have you guys celebrated at all in private yet?
Winning the league? No. Well, we high-fived each other after the Oklahoma game, but I told him we shouldn't celebrate until we win it outright, and of course we won it outright, and then we got our butts handed to us, and so nobody's really in the celebratory mood, even though there's columnists from Kansas City that felt I should be, but at least based on what I was told. But the situation is we haven't. But if we're successful tomorrow, we'll definitely do something to celebrate, but it won't be a net cutting ceremony. We've never been big on stuff like that.
Bill, about 4 or 5 years ago, you made a very prophetic statement at the postseason banquet. Travis Rutherford, I think, barely scored, and you said he's going to be a 1,000-point scorer, and he ends up within 50 points, I think. Is there a guy that's not getting to play much here that you see that kind of thing?
Well, I would say there's one kid on our team that hasn't had a chance to play a lot, and a lot of it is because he's young, and we got a couple of guys maybe in front of him, and a lot of it is maybe he can maybe gets in his own way a little bit with me, which a lot of young kids do, and that's not being a knock at all, but just trying to figure it out. But Brandon Green's going to be an NBA player. I really believe that he could be that. He's talented. He is talented. Now, does he guard anybody yet? Does he do some things that maybe we think are important that he hasn't quite bought into the same importance level? Probably not, but he is really a talented kid. He's got a chance to be a really good player. So if I was going to make a statement about somebody being bold, that would be kind of maybe one that you didn't think about. He'd probably be the one.
How's Nadir doing?
With his thumb? I saw him this morning. He seemed to be doing a lot better. He'll practice full. He didn't practice yesterday contact. He just shot, but he'll practice full speed today.
How would you rate his junior season?
How would I rate Nadir's junior senior? I would say he's played about as well as I probably would have hoped for. I don't know if I give it I'm not a professor, but a B plus or an A minus or something. I still think he can play better in some ways, but I think he's been really good. I think he's had some games where he hasn't been his best, and when he hasn't been his best, it seems like those are the games we probably struggle the most, because I do think how he goes, in large part, probably dictates as much as anything on how we play. But that's the way it should be with the point guard. Same with the quarterback. And I don't know very many times you'd have a, if a quarterback, goes, 13 to 30 and throws 3 picks, the team probably doesn't look quite as good. And we've had some of those type of games. But I would say overall he's had a really, really solid junior year. And probably as responsible for us winning the league as any individual.
Anything else?
Coach, do you have any thoughts at all about the Big 12 adding alcohol to the mix to an already pretty cool atmosphere in the tournament?
We're doing that at the Sprint Center?
Hey.
I don't know, unless it's available to the coaches, it won't affect me whatsoever. So, and I probably could have used a little help the last 10 minutes of the Oklahoma State game. So, I didn't know they were doing that. So, but that wouldn't affect us one way or another.